Hello guys and welcome to my way to fire. I am sure everyone knows that Russia invaded Ukraine on Thursday morning. While Ukraine has to defend itself, the Western countries have imposed economic and other sanctions against Russia. What Russia has done is without a doubt a horrible act, and I pray it will end as soon as possible. Of course, there are much more important concerns than what the markets look like right now, and I am very sad about what is going on. My heart goes out to the people of Ukraine. Nevertheless, war is very expensive. All the equipment, tanks, fighter jets, helicopters, guns, feeding the soldiers and so much more. That's why I decided to make a video where I try to explain what the economic sanctions against Russia are and how they affect it. First of all, I want to go over what the current sanctions are. Not all countries share the same sanctions, so I have to divide them in some parts. The US President Joe Biden unveiled new measures including bans on export of technology such as semiconductors, telecommunication, sensors and more. This aims to limit Russia's military. Apart from that, Washington also targeted Russian state-owned banks. The biggest one, Sberbank, holds around a third of total Russian bank assets. The US Treasury stated that around 80% of Russian financial institutions' daily foreign exchange transactions of $46 billion are conducted in dollars. By cutting off the two largest Russian banks from processing payments through the US financial system, they will no longer be able to benefit from its reach, efficiency and security. All US financial institutions have been instructed to close their accounts with Sberbank. Another measure taken is banning US banks and individuals from trading Russian debt. Apart from these sanctions targeting different institutions, other restrictions were aimed at the oligarch elites close to Putin. The United Kingdom also has a list of sanctions which now includes the Russian President Vladimir Putin as well as his Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Other than that, it has imposed sanctions to freeze the assets and impose travel ban on 10 individuals, 6 banks and 5 other businesses. Some of these are similar to what the US has done, so I will only talk about the affected companies. JSC Research, United Aircraft Corporation, United Shipbuilding Corporation, Rostec and Tactical Missiles Corporation. From these names it is obvious they produce military equipment, manufacture aircrafts, build and maintain warships, manufacture missiles and invest in defense and technology including weaponry. Other measures include the ban from the UK airspace and of course preventing Russian companies from borrowing and raising capital on the UK markets. And now for the European Union. They imposed sanctions on the 351 members of Duma who voted for the independence of Donetsk and Luhansk self-proclaimed republics and other 27 individuals and entities undermining Ukrainian sovereignty. This again includes Russian banks, etc. Once again, there are restrictions on access to Europe's capital market to prohibit the financing of Russia. With all this said, let's take a look how the markets reacted to the invasion. The Russian ruble declined, the natural gas giant Gazprom fell as much as 50% but bounced back a little afterwards. The Moscow Exchange Index fell around 30%. Other markets also reacted, but didn't suffer such high losses. Apart from the stock market, there were other things going on around the world. People from different countries started withdrawing money from Russian banks. For example, Sberbank's internet banking became unavailable and they decided to close some of their branches citing security issues. Now let's take a look at how all of this affects Russia. Russia is a major exporter of commodities, most importantly of natural gas and crude oil, and it is a big part of its earnings. Putin stated that he knew he would face more sanctions, and it seems that he has made some preparations. Russia currently has reserves of around $630 billion. This brings the question if it can afford to close the taps on the gas supplies to Europe. Russia also has fairly low debt, which is a little under 20% to its GDP. I know this number might be hard to imagine and it does not immediately tell you if it is low or high. So we can just compare it to the US debt, which stands at 128% to its GDP. What other economic sanctions can be implemented? The one that has been talked about the most is kicking Russia out of the SWIFT system. First of all, let's say what SWIFT even is. It stands for Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. It was founded all the way back in 1973 and it is based in Belgium. It serves as an intermediary and executor of financial transactions between banks worldwide. To make it more simple, it is a network and a standard for sending money. SWIFT does not take care of the money transfer, but it sends payment orders with all of the necessary information. It links more than 11,000 financial institutions in over 200 countries. It seems now likely that Russia might be kicked out of SWIFT to further punish it for its actions. There are of course other payment systems, which are made by China or even Russia, but SWIFT is definitely the most used one. Excluding Russia from SWIFT would mean economic consequences on both sides. Russia would definitely take a harder hit, but countries that do business with Russia would suffer some losses as well. For example, Germany was very hesitant about this step because it relies on the natural gas from Russia, but they did at least freeze the Nord Stream 2 gas project. Germany started shutting down its nuclear power plants as a part of their transition to renewable energy but became dependent on the imported natural gas along the way. Despite that, it seems that this step is back on the table and will be further discussed. It is hard to tell how much it would affect Russia, but we can take a look at what it did to the last country that got excluded. In 2012, SWIFT unplugged Iranian banks following the sanctions by the European Union over the country's nuclear program. It resulted in a loss of 30% of foreign trade and about a half of its oil export. What else can you expect? This conflict will probably result in a number of things. If the natural gas and oil supplies stop coming, it will make the already high prices go even higher. And this will most likely contribute to the already high inflation. On the other hand, we have to realize that not everything is about money. This is a war on a sovereign country, and there have to be consequences for the Russian aggression. Even if it means trouble for us as well, we need to take action and support Ukraine. Otherwise, Russia will not stop and might continue with the rest of the Europe. In times of war like this one, the market becomes very volatile because of all the uncertainty. Even though it takes place in Ukraine right now, it could lead to a further conflict. The US said they will not fight in Ukraine, but are still committed to defend every NATO country. This may scare a lot of investors who then decide to take out their money. Even if the US does not trade with Russia directly, it can do business with countries that trade with Russia, so the consequences for the middleman affect the US in the end too. Combine all of this with the expected interest rates hikes, stretched government resources after the pandemic, and you get an unpredictable environment. To conclude this, let's hope the fights in Ukraine end soon. I have huge respect for all of Ukrainians defending their country and for their president who also remained in Ukraine. Russia needs to be stopped, and I hope Ukraine will get more support from other countries. Stay safe everyone, and thank you for watching.